Erin Pellegrin here, Director of Culinary Nutrition. We are joining you live for this month's Ask the Experts. This is our monthly Q&A style digital education event where we get to chat with some of the most highly regarded experts in different fields to answer your questions and engage with you over our Unite for Her Facebook page. So we are really excited to be here today. We're talking about a really important topic about caregivers, in particular for those of us that are caregivers, how to support ourselves while also supporting our loved ones, which is a really difficult dynamic to manage, I think, a lot of the time. So we're really excited to have our special expert from Imerman Angels with us today. So before we move forward, as always, I want to start off by thanking our incredible supporters, our sponsors for our digital education events. So each month we have wonderful organizations that allow us to continue to bring these discussions and topics that are important to our Unite for Her community and members. And today's digital education event is presented by West with additional support by Daiichi Sankyo, Lilly, Merck, and Natera. So we are so grateful to have them behind us as we continue these discussions. So as usual, we are streaming our Ask the Experts live on our Facebook page. For those that may not be able to attend, we are recording this and it will be live on our Her library. So we will pop that link to view this episode and all of our other education events. You can join and rewatch any of those topics at your leisure. Because we're streaming live over Facebook, you can engage with us in the chat. So we've got some questions that we'll be moving through, but please feel free to ask Jackie any questions that you have pressing or anything that we discuss that you'd like to dive a little bit deeper about. We'll be watching that chat as we move forward. And before we introduce Jackie, I just want to give a little reminder because as usual, our months are exciting and they're busy and we've got lots of great topics coming up. So next month in June, I can't believe we are halfway through the year, but here we are. June, we have our virtual hangout. So maybe you'll join us Wednesday, June 7th. 5 p.m. Eastern time. We are having a yoga virtual hangout. And many of you may know Allison Donnelly. She is one of our yoga providers. She will be doing yoga 5 in 5. So she will be teaching us 5-minute breath and movement sequences to support spine health. So for a lot of us that are working at a desk or working from home, she'll be teaching us how to incorporate some of that mobility easily into our day. So hopefully you'll join us. Again, that's Wednesday, June 7th, 5 p.m. Eastern time. You can register online via Zoom. And as usual, all of those events will be recorded and on our Her library. So with that being said, I want to get started on our caregiver topic. And I want to read a little background about our expert that is joining us today, Jackie Herigodt. So Jackie has been a caregiver to several loved ones with cancer, including her sister, who is currently fighting stage 4 breast cancer and is a Lynch syndrome carrier. Having dealt with her own skin cancer diagnosis, plus caring for and unfortunately losing family members to cancer, Jackie uses these experiences to fuel her passion for the Imerman Angels mission. She's been with Imerman Angels since 2012, and in her current role as Director of Partnerships and Engagement, she oversees the Mentor Angel training process, community events, and the organization's outreach and engagement efforts to continue to build a strong and diverse network. She was also responsible for the creation of the organization's outreach initiative. This program has helped to strengthen partnerships with other cancer organizations like Unite for Her and cancer centers to better serve more people who have been impacted by cancer. So please join me in welcoming our expert for today, Jackie Herigodt. How are you? Thank you for being with
us. Always wonderful to see you. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure. Oh my gosh. Yeah, we're so glad you're here with us today. So this is a really important topic. And I think anytime we think of caregivers in general, we think of Imerman Angels and we think of you because it's what you do, and you truly are the expert in this discussion. So I'd like to start off this talk by just saying, for those that may be unfamiliar with Imerman Angels, can you tell us a little bit about your organization and how you connect caregivers?
Absolutely, yes. So Imerman Angels is a global organization. We are connecting on a peer-to-peer level. So it's very different than a support group. We give you your own cancer confidant to talk to, somebody who's been there, done that. Whether you're a cancer fighter, survivor, caregiver, previvor, we can give you someone that understands what it's like, and to talk about your experience and connect on a level that you may not ordinarily have the opportunity to. That's our role. So you ask what you want to get connected on, and we go ahead and find that person for you. And you can connect via email, phone, text, however you want. And it's a global org. And we're handling over 146 cancer types. So it's a lot.
Wow. And I'm glad that you mentioned that because, of course, our community, our members that we serve are breast and ovarian cancer.
Right.
But Imerman Angels, they cover much more than that. So I'm glad that you brought that up because, unfortunately, our community, we always know others that may have a cancer diagnosis and they can benefit from your support too.
For sure. I will say, though, breast is our highest request. So, we do have several people that are looking for support. And also it tends to be, the group of most mentors as well. So,
Okay. Yeah. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So with sort of focusing on the importance of caregivers, and we know that I think for many is an underappreciated sometimes job and position and work that someone is doing. Why is it important for caregivers to take time for themselves? Why are you stressing that topic today?
Yeah, it really warms my heart that y'all are paying attention to the caregivers because I have fought long and hard for that concept. Actually, when I joined Imerman Angels, originally I joined as a volunteer because the mission, the concept of connecting to somebody who had been there was so unique to me because I hadn't had that opportunity really before. And I was like, gosh, I could have used this myself to talk to somebody who I could address my, my fear with. Am I doing these things right? All the pressure that you have as a caregiver, right?
Yeah.
I had no one to turn to. So when I heard of Imerman Angels, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to get involved. And so I could only get involved as a volunteer because they did not hire people that were not caregivers even. And so just changing the dynamic of how people view caregivers and how important that role has been kind of a point for me this whole time. And again, I commend y'all for recognizing the importance of the caregivers because if the caregivers aren't strong, the people that are looking out for those people that are focused on getting well themselves, then it really takes away all possibilities for the fighter. If you have a strong caregiver backing you, yourself will be stronger. And we know that. So if you have somebody looking out for you, if you have that team, you have that village, you could have, several people looking out for you.
Right.
It's way better for you. So that's why I always, am fighting to get that acknowledgement out there to recognize how powerful those caregivers are. Oftentimes when we have people call us, a fighter, they're like, well, I want to get connected to somebody who had the same treatment as I did. And then like, okay, what was that treatment? Honey, what was the treatment?
Right.
Yes. They don't remember, but their loved one has written it down, has taken vigorous notes, has file cabinets of, what's happening. And that's okay. That's what we want, but then who supports that honey,
Yeah.
that took those notes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who
Yeah.
recognize
That's
that honey is
right.
still putting food on the table, paying the bills, potentially taking care of the kids, going to work, and
Yeah.
also making sure that their loved one that's going through the cancer fight is
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. And
So,
I'm glad you used the word acknowledge in that explanation. I think because it often, a caregiver may feel unacknowledged. It
for
just in the
sure.
sense that the focus has to be on the person that they are caring for or
Absolutely.
supporting. And so I love that you are, just really calling why, caregivers, why it is just as important
Mhm.
for a caregiver to take time for themselves or to care for themselves or to, do whatever they need to support themselves. And really, I think that's a good word as like a little reminder.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And they have to be acknowledged, they have to be empowered, they have to be strengthened, they have to be
Hmm.
supported
Hmm.
just as the fighter does because they too are fighting. It is not a fight that the fighter, the person going through cancer, is going through alone, thankfully, right?
Right, right.
It is their fight too. It is their impact too. It doesn't just stop with the one person. That diagnosis goes throughout
Yeah.
everybody.
Yep, that team dynamic almost, right?
Sure.
You need everybody to be together to be well. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So when we think about, and I know I have said this to others that act as caregivers, take time for yourself. Make sure you're taking a little time. Make sure you're caring for yourself.
Mhm.
What are we talking about? What do you suggest? Is it, okay, well, I'm going to run out and get a manicure. I'm going to schedule a massage. Like, is it self-care like that? Is it other things? What approach do you find is the best for caregivers when they're really looking to care for themselves?
Yeah. I would say yes, yes, yes. All of those if there's time.
Yeah.
But the reality of that is probably not easily to come by, when you're taking care of a loved one. So
Mhm.
um, I would say, being that I've been in this situation several times, I know that it's easier said than done. I know that so many people reach out and they'll say, well, what can I do to support you? And oftentimes you can't even think of where to begin.
Yeah.
But that's where you write down notes somewhere, journal, have an opportunity to figure out where is it really that somebody could step in
Uh-huh.
and support
I
you.
love that.
So it's mostly in my opinion, it's just trying to get a little bit off your to-do list that
Mhm.
could be most supportive because the juggling of all your challenges at one time is so cumbersome.
Mm.
So to be able to even just have somebody go walk your dog, take the dog to the groomer, pick up the kids from from school or daycare, go to the grocery store. It's like those external things that when you come home, that is done and you are less having to worry about that.
Yeah.
That could be a tremendous lift off your shoulders. And it's not directly about going to get your nails done,
Right.
right? Although, of course, that's great.
Yeah.
But as a caregiver, I know the guilt that would come along with that.
Mhm.
Um, and you don't have time. That's not something you're even contemplating, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
But all that list that you have that
Mhm.
now have a few I love lists. So scratch it out or check marks, like,
Mhm.
get that off.
Yeah.
Having somebody there to take those few things off can really change your heaviness.
Yep. That's right, those little things that probably weigh so much. And
Yeah.
even for I'll use myself as the guinea pig, right? So if
Mhm.
I have someone I know who's a caregiver,
Mhm.
I could even be that person that says, "Okay, Jackie, let's sit down and make this list." Because that may be overwhelming and say, "Okay, where do you
Mhm.
need help? Let's make this list together. We'll figure
Exactly.
out where you need help, and then I'll figure out what I can do for you," right? So we can even be that initiator that says, "Let's make this together," because
Absolutely.
I would imagine for a caregiver, even the thought, that I don't have time. I don't have
Mhm.
time for this. I can't do it. That could even start with making that list, right? Like if I just do it myself, it's quicker, right? So
Yeah.
So how do we sort of reinforce the importance of really making that list or taking that time is really important? How do we help someone sort of recognize or get over that hump a little bit?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you're going through all of this, it's really a day by day process,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so potentially having a calendar in front of you and saying, okay, like these are the dates, these are the things that I know are
Mm-hmm.
happening.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I know is happening during these days. And then looking at what it looks like. Where do I fill in
Yeah.
my things?
Yeah.
And if you're supporting a caregiver, like if you're a friend of somebody doing that, and just say, hey, I know that you have a lot on your plate right now, but where can I help you? Probably the caregiver will respond, oh, I don't even know where to begin. Well,
Right.
now you can have a response of like, let's sit down and like look at the to-do list and
Yeah.
where I can help. And I know too that like the deal, the what do you call it? Just making meals. A lot of people put weekly meals together
Mm-hmm.
for their
Mm-hmm.
loved ones that are going through this. That is really helpful
Mm-hmm.
too. So like sitting down and like putting together like Monday, Joni's going to do it. Tuesday, Fred's doing it. Wednesday, George,
Mm-hmm.
whatever
Mm-hmm.
the case is. And,
Mm-hmm.
putting together a list. I think what a lot of people do is like, how can I help you to a caregiver? And then the caregiver will just say, I don't even know where to begin. And then that person stops because they
Right.
don't want to overwhelm the caregiver.
Right.
But oftentimes it's like, you just need to do it.
Yeah.
Because
Just step
even
in, just
thinking
yeah, just
about
do
it
it. Mm-hmm.
is too overwhelming, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then why are you bombarding the caregiver with more things to do, which is
Mm-hmm.
kind of what happens. So the caregiver, if they can just start off with a list of to-dos,
Mm-hmm.
even day by day. Like I said, for me, it's easier to look long range and then start working backwards.
Mm-hmm.
I think that has been a very efficient suggestion from the
Yeah,
caregivers that I've talked to. They said that that's been most helpful.
for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it sounds like just breaking things down
Mm-hmm.
into smaller parts,
Yeah,
right? Like
it's too
just
overwhelming otherwise.
right. Right.
So it has to be, and it's one of those things that's really interesting because, everybody gets overwhelmed, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if you're able to break things into little parts, it's so much more like,
Manageable.
yeah, and attainable, and you
Yeah.
feel empowered like every day because you're like, okay, I'm a step closer. I'm a step closer. We're almost there. We're getting there.
Yep.
And so,
Yep.
like I said, I think that's why I like the to-do list, like check
Yeah.
marks really make me happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Know that like in the end, then it's like it's going in the right direction.
Yeah.
So that's really helpful.
It's a nice little motivation to see those little check boxes.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
again, it's not getting your nails done, it's not getting your hair done. It's not that, but it's a mental break
Mm-hmm.
almost to know
Mm-hmm.
that you're getting in the right direction,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're
Mm-hmm.
being productive.
Mm-hmm. Right. Because especially when you feel like you're just trying to keep your head above water, you may
Exactly.
never feel like you're making progress. So those little wins
Mm-hmm.
mean the most.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yep.
Yep.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Okay. So, we talked about, tip suggestions for how a caregiver can make some time for themselves. We've talked about trying to make that list, trying to break things down into small parts.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how else or what other suggestions might you have for the caregiver that might just be having a really hard time finding time, making time for themselves?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll go back with the calendar idea.
Hmm.
Because if you write yourself lists and it's because you're so overwhelmed, right? You're trying to juggle so many things,
Yep.
right? So, um, I can think of times of like forgetting things, and going, ugh, if I would have wrote it down. So then like learning to write things down and putting it on calendar was such a tremendous help for me.
Yeah.
And that are really helpful in making sure that people have their village to support them, right?
Yeah.
You know, and again, like delegating who's taking care of what and making sure that's done so that you do have that minute to take a breath.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the delegation is huge
Mm-hmm.
when you're a caregiver. You just have to take that second. And I know it's so hard to take that second to think about, like, where do I begin? But once you do it, I promise you, you won't regret it, because you'll be so grateful because you get that second to breathe. And I don't care what you do with that time, if it's just a second for you, that can take that weight off your shoulders and really make a difference in the day. Because that's what you need. You need that break. You need that mental like relief, you know? So, yeah.
And I think I'm glad you mentioned sort of the difficulty in taking that first step in delegating. But I feel like once that happens and an individual feels that, like, oh, they have this covered, they have that covered, this is already done, that is proof in the pudding, so to speak, of why it's so important. So it's that initially being able to accept others' help and like you said, delegate out, and then you realize, oh my gosh, I do feel better, at least for a few moments, at least for a little bit of time.
And you have to, because if you keep working your system, it's like anything else, right? Everything needs a break. If you keep working your system till you're just tired and beat and you know, have no mental capacity for one more thing, it's not going to help the person fighting cancer as much as it would had you had a nap for 20 minutes. Like, had you taken a shower, right? If you were able to just know that you had that support from your other, you know, people around you that are wanting to, that's the other thing. Like, realize that, you know, of course, there's probably people out there that are like, oh, how can I help you? They don't really mean it. But, you know, mostly I think that people are saying, like, how can I help you? They mean it, right? And so giving them these opportunities also helps them. And not that that's your role. It's definitely not your role to care about all of that at that point. But it does make that relationship, that bond, stronger in the end. Because again, it does take that village and you need that support. And why not take it if they're offering it when you know that it's going to benefit your loved one, you know?
Yeah, that trickle down effect is huge.
Absolutely.
Huge. Yeah.
So,
you know, being a caregiver, as with all of the tasks and all of the work that comes along with it, there's also a big emotional response, a range of emotions that a caregiver can feel. And can you speak a little bit to, you know, what that is like for a caregiver? And I'm not sure if an individual that is a caregiver understands that it's normal to experience a range of emotions and really the vast, you know, number that may come through on a given day or during a period of time. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, I mean, Imerman Angels recently put together a grief toolkit for this a little bit because there are so many ranges of emotions. Like, you know, you're going to go through shock, you're going to go through fear, you're going to go through anger, you're going to go through being overwhelmed, you know, like it's just this emotional roller coaster. And from minute to minute, it could change. From day to day, it could change. That's, I think, where Imerman Angels, you know, to toot our own horn over here.
I mean, you're among the best of what you do. So toot that horn, toot it.
But like, really, even if you weren't to come to Imerman, to talk to somebody who's gone through it is the key component. Having somebody that has already been a caregiver could really change the trajectory of your outlook and how you handle those emotions. making sure that you're not isolated and feeling alone, because again, that could be part of those emotions and part of that roller coaster. It shouldn't be.
Yeah.
It absolutely should not be at this point.
Okay.
We have over 14,000 mentors that have registered with us over all time. Now, that's not all caregivers,
Okay.
and that's not for, breast cancer specifically, if for these listeners, but and ovarian. But my point is that, like, the caregiving relationship,
Yeah.
having somebody to express those feelings to and
And that
say,
person gets it.
this is how I'm feeling. Do you understand that?
Right.
Now, that conversation between somebody who's been there and somebody who hasn't is going to be a completely different conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Because somebody who hasn't been there, they're going to say, I'm sorry what you're going through. This is going to get better, or whatever they're going to say.
Right.
Versus like a person that's been there, done that, could say, well, I get it. And that they get it.
Mm-hmm.
And like, these are the things that I did when I was going through this scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And like, this is what helped me. And I wish I would have known this. And I wish I didn't do this. And I wish I would have done this. And like, that's your navigation. That's your resource. And the treasure, the magic in that is beyond words. But it could really change the whole trajectory of where you are and how you impact the lives around you emotionally.
Yeah. That's a really, really good point, because as a caregiver is thinking about who's their support around them, you've called out those two different groups, right? The support that can help them ease the load a little bit, but the support that really gets them on a real personal experience level and can offer thoughtful suggestions about how they're experiencing, ideas for how to deal with it. It's like I said, it's a whole new level, but so important.
It's the psychosocial, of understanding those emotions. And again, it's kind of like, you need to take care of the necessities. Right, obviously.
Yep.
So, we're all going to want the Maslow hierarchy is, take care of your home and your water and your food, and you're making sure you're safe and all of that. But then there's also the next level of like your emotions and your family and feeling understood. And that's where we come in. Or somebody else that's been there comes in.
Amazing. For those that have just joined us, we're talking with Jackie Herigodt from Imerman Angels, talking all about caregivers, how they can support themselves while also supporting others. She's giving us really wonderful advice. So for those that are watching, will watch in the future, what sort of experience does someone need as a caregiver if they are looking to request support from Imerman Angels or even, another organization?
So what experience do they need to have to request or to become?
Let's do both. Let's request, and then maybe down the line, if they want to kind of pay it forward and become.
Yeah. So Imerman Angels is very specific because we are just handling caregivers that are taking care of cancer. So, so loved ones that are going through that cancer diagnosis. I will say that over the years, we have had many requests for other caregivers to get support, for, MS or ALS or, dementia, what have you, right? Because a caregiver is also taking care of people that are dealing with those ailments, right? But our focus is very much on cancer, and we have enough on that, like, unfortunately, right? So anybody that is taking care of a loved one with cancer can register to request a caregiver mentor angel if they are going through a cancer experience. Or even with, as we mentioned, we did talk about the previvors a little bit. As I mentioned, my sister's a Lynch syndrome carrier. So if you're a previvor, so somebody going through a cancer, a mutation that could lead to a cancer diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
We would also support those caregivers as well, but it has to be cancer related.
Right.
Even if they've lost a loved one already. Sometimes we talked a little bit about the grief, and that comes at different stages, and a grief is not always about absolutely like somebody passing. It's about the loss of something, the change of something, right? And so people need to recognize that, like, when you go through that cancer diagnosis, things are changing. And so whatever it is, it may never go back to what it was.
Right.
And so grief is going to impact you somewhere along those lines. And how do you deal with all those emotions?
Yep.
So I think that it's great to have that support system there and request for support. And the beauty of Imerman Angels, I don't know much about the other peer-to-peers and how they do it, but like, you can opt in and opt out. You can talk to somebody once or twice for just a few questions, right?
Yeah. Yep. I'm glad you answered that. I was thinking, is there a timeline, right? But people, they have flexibility. It's kind of fluid. That's a really good thing to know.
Yeah. And so, like, if you just, like, right now you have one or two questions and you're like, okay, I got this. Okay. And then, you start moving in the journey and you're like, oh man, I do not got this. Like, I really need support. Then you reach back out, and you get another mentor, or you reach out to your mentor that you previously had. And you get the support again, because we are there for the entire journey, and we do support, as I was starting to go down that road, is like, even if you've lost a loved one, we can support you if it's in the cancer world, if you lost a loved one to cancer. And on the reverse side, a lot of times people will say, well, I want to give back in some way. They've gone through the cancer journey, and our caregivers as well. Oftentimes they'll say, oh, you don't want to talk to me because like my loved one passed, which is absolutely not the truth. We do need people there to support people through that process, the grieving process, through end of life, and through the after of and what that looks like. So we're always looking for more caregiver mentors.
Okay.
Whether it was your spouse, your partner, or your mom, your dad, your children, your siblings, those are usually the connections that we most support. And we're always looking for more caregiver mentors in that. And, of course, we always hope that the loved one is alive, but again, that's not always the case. And so your experience is so helpful,
right,
regardless of this scenario. And please don't ever downplay it. That is a big thing to recognize. If somebody allows you or has you to be their caregiver, that's like an honor. Wear that badge of honor. And I think that recognizing that too, and becoming a caregiver mentor and being able to give back and shed some light and understanding and support, it allows that person to actually recognize what they went through. Because I can tell you, as a mentor myself, every time I have those conversations, people ask questions, and then I'll be like, oh yeah, this is what I did, and this is what I went through. And I'm like, afterwards, I'll be like, ooh, wow, I did go through that. Like, that, I didn't even think about that. Because when you're in it, you're so in it that you don't have time to process everything. So you just push things down deep, and then you move on to the next thing because you don't have time to think about it. But when you mentor, you have time to think about it. So it's almost therapeutic in a way.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, it can really be therapeutic, like you said, for both parties.
Yeah. And I look at it as a like promotion, like a graduation step. It's the next step of your journey to be able to give back, because it is so therapeutic, and you learn stuff about yourself that you didn't even know. And it allows you to feel like, okay, there's some purpose in my pain.
Absolutely. And I, and I'm glad that you are highlighting that, because I will share, a lot of our members that I connect with nutritionally, that same sentiment is what they share with us, right? They go through this experience, and then once they're finished, so to speak, or their passport expires or what have you, they turn around and say, I want to help others. I want to then, when I am feeling better, I want to turn around and help others, or I want to volunteer. And it's the same thing, right? If you have this caregiving experience and then you want to sort of share and help others and pay it forward, it can be, wildly healing for someone.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the adjective of wildly.
Yeah.
It's really, it's this ride that you just don't expect, and I think that that's definitely true. Wildly is well said. I'm going to use that because I feel it.
But yeah. Well, and one thing I also want to call out, and I know, Jackie, you have been working a lot with Catherine on our team, is as we sort of grow and build our Spanish-speaking community, is that for those in the Hispanic communities, you have caregiver mentors that they can connect with as well. So I think that that's really important to highlight also.
Yes. And I would also say, like, what we always like to do is we need more. I don't care how many we have. We always need more. Always. So again, please don't devalue your experience, because there are people that are where you were last year, where you were 5 years ago, where you were 10 years ago. They are going through that right this second.
Okay.
And with the Spanish-speaking community specifically, we have 3 Spanish-speaking support specialists right now, and we never have enough mentors. Like, it's like we're always like, okay, well, we want more.
Yeah. There will forever be a need. Yeah.
So, if you're a Spanish speaker, bilingual, I'm sure if you're, fully Spanish speaking, you're not listening because you wouldn't understand this, but bilingual, at least I need more mentors that speak Spanish, no matter what it is, because we definitely have the requests coming in.
Okay.
And so we're using the same mentors kind of over and over sometimes. So looking for more mentors for that. Yeah. I think you can.
Yeah, absolutely. We were super enthused to learn about that as well. So I'm glad that we got connected, and hopefully can continue to share that service to our members as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Really important. Yeah. So with that being said, for someone that would be interested in both, either really hearing you today and saying, you know what, I think I need this, I think I can really benefit, or someone that does want to get involved, where can they go to get connected with your team that can kind of get that process rolling?
Sure. So we do have a website. It's imermanangels.org. So that's the easiest way. We actually have a scheduling in the registration now, where you can schedule a time that's convenient for you and for our cancer support specialists to talk about registering and what you are looking for in either a mentor or to become a mentor your experience. And you can also give us a call and leave us a message. And that number is 877-274-5529. And give us a call. We do work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 Central Time.
Okay.
And we're really good about giving callbacks. So, but again, the best way is to get that registration going online. So registering on the website. Yeah.
Perfect. And hopefully we can, imermanangels.org, we can drop that link in the chat. Yeah, let's see. We can drop that in. Okay. And then just to kind of wrap up this afternoon, any final message that you want to share on behalf of Imerman Angels, or just some final things for our caregivers to think about as they move ahead with their Friday, and they kind of reflect a little bit on this?
I think 2 things. One, specifically about Imerman Angels, is we are here for a reason. We are here to connect you. please don't think you're alone. You're not. There are other people that have been there, done that. And we literally have mentors going, hey, you haven't matched me lately. Like, they're sitting there waiting to get connected. So please reach out. If nothing else, give them something to do. It's not about you, it's about them, right?
That's right.
No, seriously, like there's no reason for you to be going through this alone. We want to make sure that you have somebody to talk to. And as I said, it's a 1 or 2 conversation, or it's a friendship, whatever you want. You just tell the mentor what you're looking for, and we make that happen. And on the other side is like, as that caregiver, just make sure that you are accepting the requests of help, because that's probably like one of the biggest regrets you'll have, is like not having more time to make yourself stronger for your loved one. Don't allow yourself to get crazy overwhelmed. Give yourself time to process things and take time for yourself and take time to be with the loved one instead of running around doing the external things, right? So if you have somebody walking your dog, you can actually sit with your loved one. If you have somebody doing the grocery shopping, you can sit with your loved one. These kind of things are most important, right? So focusing on the most important first, which is you and your loved one. So that would be my takeaway.
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much for everything, for sharing, for the work that you do, for the ongoing, just persistence with sharing your mission and connecting and growing. And, we caregivers are, the most important people. We know so many of our members rely so heavily on caregivers, but are also caregivers themselves. So being able to highlight this topic in discussion is really important. And we are thankful to be, partners with Imerman Angels and continue to grow together.
Yes. And I, again, thankful that you recognize that. Not everybody does. So I appreciate that you do. And we're here when you need us. So please always reach out.
Yeah, wonderful. Wonderful. Well, Jackie, thank you so much. And I'm sure we will have you back for future discussions, but hopefully you'll be hearing from some of our members and their family and supporters, moving ahead. So
Please,
thanks for joining us. Have a great day.
You too.